You know when you have that card that you like you see the card and it's a very interesting card, but it's not necessarily good, and you just try desperately to make a deck for it and it just doesn't work. Well, that's what I'm talking about here. That's Tibalt, or the Tibalts, because I have two of them because they're so shitty that people. I got the first one in a pack, and I mean that was I got it. And I was like, yay, I get a Planeswalker, and then I found out it sucks. And then I got my second one because a friend of mine was just like, "Oh shit, I got Tibble. You want it?" Like this thing, I think this thing was worth like 50 cents. Like this is a really shitty card. Man. Maybe a dollar, but I mean that's the lowest I've ever seen a Planeswalker go. This is a really shit card. So yeah, let's just talk about it. So first of all, it's 2 mana, 2 red. Oh sorry. And the first ability is draw a card, then discard a card at random. That's kind of what fucks this card up because it's the discard at random. Like discarding a card is actually really useful. If it was just discard a card, that would just make a very OP card because it costs 2 mana. 2 mana. It's early game thing, and it has 2 counter. That's perfectly fine for what it does. The second ability, Tibalt, the Fiend-Blooded deals damage equal to the number of cards in their hand. That's actually a good ability too. Thing is, it costs -4 though, so it's not something you're able to play in first turn or even like this is a third turn ability. And I mean, yeah, doing damage to the player like that could help you end the game like a burn deck. But I mean, this is the kind of deck like you have to kind of build a deck, especially with the first ability, because that's what you use to build it up. You kind of have to build a deck where you expect to lose cards in your deck, and especially with the rules. The rules of random is basically you have your opponent choose a card, and like just show them all your cards and choose a card, and that's how they discard it. It really doesn't lend itself to any kind of like playability because chance cards are not never reliable at all. I don't know if any of you play League of Legends, but it's kind of like a Gangplank's Ultimate. Like it doesn't do a set amount of damage. You can't rely on that kind of damage. You might, 2 missiles might hit them, or 5 cannons might hit them, and you don't know. You really don't know. Even it doesn't matter if they're on the outside or on the inside. You really don't know how many times they're gonna get hit. So it's not like Jinx is all where you have a reliable amount of damage. Anyway, enough about League. So his -6 is you get to gain control of all creatures until end turn. Untap them, they gain haste until the end of turn. That's a great ability. That's an awesome ability. For -6, that's efficient. It's just the first ability it just isn't good enough. And the second ability is just too expensive. That's why Tibalt's not a good card. And I try to make a deck for him. I try to make a deck where every card was disposable, but that is not possible. Every decks need to have some kind of playability. And I mean, even in like a Grave Pack deck, like you can't use this because what if the card you need to stay in your hand? Like, what if the Resurrection card goes in the graveyard? Then you're fucked. You're just left with like 3 Terrastodons in your hands. That's why I mean that's why this card isn't good. And plus, it's 2 red, so you really can't run many other cards with it because it's like, oh yeah, no, I have like a green. I drew 2 greens. What the fuck am I doing now? And I have a Tibble in my hand. It just becomes useless. And then late game, what are you gonna do with it? Like I guess you can use the +1 and draw like when your hand's empty and draw and then discard it. But like that's yeah, that was actually my idea. Just run out your hand and then scry, and then the cards you don't want put on the top, and then draw it and discard it. But especially with two red, it just doesn't work with blue or any other colors you want to add to it. So that's tippled anyway. Yeah, kind of disappointing card. Honestly, I would give it probably a 1 out of 5, or 1.5 out of 5. It was just a very disappointing card.